ESPN 94.1 FM and AM 930 present The Drive.
It is Monday, April 7th. Your drive begins now on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. I'm your host, Paul Swann. Thanks for being a part of today's show. Our text line this hour, we're going to open that back up at 304-396-TALK, 304-396-8255. Brought to you by Clark's Pump and Shop. We'll get that going in just a few minutes. It's been a few days since we've had a chance to get together. Of course, Friday we were off due to baseball, so we're back for the majority of the baseball season. So almost the rest of the way, we've got clear sailing, and of course we got a lot to get into this week as the spring game is coming up this Saturday, and I'm not sure who we're going to get a chance to talk to just yet, but we're working on a couple of things. That's the tease I'll give you for today. We're working on a couple of things just ahead of the spring game. And I know it's going to be a little bit more exciting than it was in previous years because at least the first half of the spring game is going to actually be a game. Now, I know it'll still be controlled, but it's going to be an honest-to-goodness game, not situational drills. It's going to be, let's go out and play. And I think that in the long run is going to attract more people, at least to generate some interest. And we'll know more after the spring game what the transfer portal is going to look like. So that will come in a few days after the game. But just for right now, the spring game itself, finally, we get to see what the herd looks like. At least the majority of people get to see what the herd looks like. And so that's going to be fun on Saturday. Looking forward to seeing all of you there. And, of course, we got baseball that day as well. We've got soccer that day. How about this? I don't know if you've been following, but Marshall is taking on Michigan State in the College Spring League Championship. And that's going to be on Saturday at 7:30 p.m. Now, of course, that's not going to be in Huntington. It's going to be in Columbus. But still, the Thundering Herd back in the College Spring League Championship. Chris Grassi loves trophies. And I love trophies as well. I like winning. Coach Grassi likes winning. And you can't win all the time. So it's even more special when you get a chance to win. And when you do win, it's pretty special. And Marshall's been very good at winning trophies in soccer. And so College Spring League, I think it means something to Coach Grassi. It's an opportunity for his team to go out and to perform, and it's a great way to get this team tuned up a little bit before the real season begins. And I don't want to say the real season because, College Spring League, it's a league, and Marshall's putting its best foot forward, and these teams are putting their best foot forward as well. And so we'll see what happens on Saturday, but that's going to be fun, obviously. Baseball as well. Hey, how about the Thundering Herd? Baseball getting the series win against Georgia Southern. How about that? I'll tell you what. Over the last couple of weeks, I think we're starting to see this team really put it together. You got a win against Troy. That was good. You got the series win against number 13 Southern Miss. And now you're looking all right. You're solid in conference. You're not on top. You're in the middle. That's fine. You're working your way up to being a winning program in conference, and that would be the next goal for me. You got a winning record at home. And so now can you get to the point where you have a winning record in conference? That would be the next step for me. But the team right now is 16-16 overall. Now, Marshall was set to take on Ohio. That was going to be a Tuesday game, but due to the weather, and we all know how the weather has impacted everything. There's been flooding all over the place. And so we offer our thoughts and prayers to everyone impacted by the weather. But this game in Athens moved to Wednesday. It's going to be a 5 o'clock game. So if you were heading up and you didn't know about the change of the day, here you go. 5 o'clock on Wednesday in Athens. And I know it's Ohio and it's a rival for Marshall in so many regards, but it's just a fun trip to go to Athens. I'm going to give all respect to the Bobcats and that campus. It's really beautiful, and it feels like a college campus. And it's scenic in so many regards, and Athens is a neat little place, and so I'll give Ohio a lot of respect when it comes to that college atmosphere. A little different than Huntington when it comes to the college atmosphere, at least the campus atmosphere. But I think things are improving for Marshall, obviously. There's a lot of happenings going around the stadium and a lot of revitalization going on right now. But if you're looking to make a trip, that'd be one I would take. If you have the ability to go to the game, just a 90-minute drive to Athens, if you've got the ability, that's one I would go to. Just take that trip up. Watch the Herd play Ohio. Root the Thundering Herd on. Maybe Marshall gets the win. And then we're talking about a little bit more momentum because it's going to be a busy weekend. Thundering Herd taking on Appalachian State soon. And that means a lot. You want to win that series. If you win that series and then all of a sudden you look at the conference standings and, hey, you've got a winning record in league play. It will be a narrow winning record, but it's a start. Absolutely wonderful weekend for baseball for the Thundering Herd. So Appalachian State coming up this weekend, but first up, it's going to be Ohio. And again, that game has been moved to Wednesday. So we'll get your text in this hour. I want to do that. We've got a lot of baseball to get into. The Pirates actually got a win against the Yankees. And the Brewers beat up on the Reds. And the Angels got the best of the Guardians. Cleveland's got today off. Cincinnati in San Francisco tonight. The Bucks at home opening up with St. Louis tonight. And, of course, we've got the NCAA championship game coming up right here on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. Didn't go the way I wanted to. I was pulling for Duke. I had Duke winning it all in my bracket. And so Houston wins. Florida wins. That's your national championship game. A lot of people tuned in. One of the best audiences, largest audiences in a long time for the NCAA tournament, and especially that Duke-Houston game. So a lot of people tuned in. And Houston might have a shot in this tonight, but Florida was a lot of people's pick. It was either Duke or Florida that a lot of people picked. Not too many people maybe picked Houston. If you did, you were on to something here. And I don't know if you stayed up, listened to it, or watched it. I did a little bit of both. And I talked to a couple people today, and they said, I tuned out. It was over. Duke had won. It was over. And, yeah. You wake up the next morning and look at the score and go, what? And that's how it went down. Duke lost that game. Houston, all respect to Houston. Houston didn't win that game. Duke lost that game. I hadn't seen a collapse like that in a long time. And even watching the post game afterwards, all the talking heads, almost to an individual, a man, they had Duke as Sharpie. Here you go, Duke in the championship game. So you never know what's going to happen. But I hadn't seen a collapse like that in a long while. Like up 11, even 30 seconds ago, you had 6-point lead. How do you blow that? Well, go watch that game if you missed it. Go catch the replay of that. We should have a good one tonight, though. And we'll go on the air at 7 o'clock. You can listen to it. If you can't watch it, you're going to be out driving around. You're going to be somewhere where you can't watch the game, or you just want to listen to it. I'm good with all of that. You can listen to it starting at 7 o'clock. Our coverage ends tonight, the NCAA tournament, right here on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. It's been a fun journey. It's been a fun tournament. I think this has been one of the better tournaments. Very chalky, though. I don't know if you miss the Cinderella stories, the feel-good stories, but if you just want the best basketball teams to get to the championship game, this was your tournament. It was very chalky, just an upset here or there. I don't know if this is going to be the shape of things to come with the transfer portal, with NIL. Is it going to be harder for the little guy, the Cinderellas out there? Is it going to be harder for a school like Marshall to maybe get in the tournament and then win some games. Now, of course, Marshall's got a limited history in the NCAA tournament, only one win in the tournament in its limited history. But if you're a program like Marshall, is it going to be harder for you as a team, as players? Is it going to be harder to, once you get in that tournament, to really make an impact? Or is it going to be dominated by those programs that spend a lot of money, not only in the usual places like facilities, resources? We got to talk about name, image, and likeness now. We got to talk about all of that. And I don't know what the landscape's going to look like. I know the House is still working on its settlement with the NCAA. Are there going to be scholarship limits? Will there be fully funded scholarships and a lot more sports? But is there going to be a limit on roster sizes? When all of that is finally official, as some would say official, what kind of impact is that going to have on college athletics? Are there going to be a lot more players you can get a hold of, since there's not going to be as many roster spots? That might impact football more than basketball. If you shrink the roster sizes, and then those spots become a lot more valuable, and if you've got more talent out there and you have less roster availability, what's that going to look like for some of the bigger schools? A guy that might go to play for, say, an Ohio State, he's good enough, but maybe he's not good enough to really play, could go somewhere else and have more of a robust career. So there's so much going on here with these tournament games, and I think it's going to be an indicator of what it's going to look like here in the near future. So we'll keep an eye on all of that, though. I want to get to our text line, so we'll do that coming up. It's brought to you by Clark's Pump and Shop at 304-396-TALK, 304-396-8255. Yesterday was a really busy sports day for me. How many of you are Washington Capitol fans? I know our local teams, if you want to get technical, the local teams for hockey, Pittsburgh, Columbus, I'll throw Carolina in there. I know a lot of Carolina Hurricane fans. And I'll throw Washington in there as well. How many of you are Capitol fans? Or how many of you just decided, I'm going to watch The Great Chase with Alex Ovechkin? Did he get goal number 895? I think you know the answer. But that was something to watch yesterday. And we'll talk a little bit about that as well as we get you updated on everything that's going on today, and I do want to hear from you. So one more time on that text line, 304-396-TALK, 304-396-8255. Thanks for tuning in to today's edition of The Drive on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930.
Listening to The Drive with Paul Swann on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930.
Welcome back to our Monday edition of The Drive here at ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. Our talk line is open. It's 304-396-TALK, 304-396-8255. A lot to talk about today. Thundering Herd, of course, getting set for the spring game. That's coming up on Saturday. Baseball action coming up as well. Wasn't a spectacular weekend for softball. Unfortunately, softball didn't get it done on the road as much as we would have liked to have seen them do it. They still play strong, though. So softball didn't get it done, but Marshall tennis got it done. Defeated Coastal Carolina 4-0 in league play yesterday. Baseball's starting to get it done. Soccer's getting it done. So there's a lot going on here that we can be happy about. I think softball, unfortunately, just ran into a tough situation. They're still going to be in the hunt for the, I don't want to say the regular season championship. It's going to be a dogfight, but I still think that they have got a shot in that. Now, One other thing that we should talk about. I don't know if you knew this. You probably saw it on social. If you didn't, though, and you can have a little bit of this as well, because Marshall was part of the launching pad for Billy Donovan's career. Billy Donovan's been named to the Naismith Basketball Hall of Fame. And that's huge. That is an absolutely huge honor for him. And I can remember Rick Pitino even saying, hey, we wanted Billy to stay there for a while and start enjoying some success. What does Billy do? He heads off to Florida. He finds his own success there. I mean, Florida could win the national championship tonight. Billy Donovan pulled in a couple of those championships for Florida. And then, of course, he went on to have hopefully a fulfilling career, in the NBA. Billy was one of those coaches that you knew you didn't have him for long. If you look at what he did, I think he revitalized Marshall basketball. And if you look at the history of Marshall basketball, Billy came in at the right time. Marshall, 9-18. So the Herd's 9-18. And so Billy comes in. He was 28 years old at the time. He comes in. And all of a sudden, you're seeing Marshall play this kind of Patino ball. It turned out all right. Now, of course, Marshall went up against Kentucky, lost that one 116-75, but everything else seemed to go well. So Marshall finished with an 18-9 record, won the Southern Conference North Division title. I mean, Billy was even named the 1995 Southern Conference Coach of the Year. Now, in his second season, 17-11. Marshall led the Southern Conference in scoring, 3-point field goals. Jason Williams, remember Jason Williams? How about Jason Williams? And Jason Williams, of course, later would follow Donovan to Florida. But at Marshall, 35-20 record, really a respectable record and resurgent. And you would have thought, oh, okay, if he can keep this up, if he can get this going here, maybe, just maybe, Marshall can start winning some championships again. And of course, University of Florida calls, and he was there, and it was a highly successful run. He was there until 2015, won back-to-back national championships. Then hit the NBA. He was with the Oklahoma City Thunder. Now he's with the Chicago Bulls. I feel sorry for him, though. I mean, the Thunder, that was a good gig. Chicago used to be a good gig. I feel sorry for him here, but he's got a sweet contract. He's had a lot of success. College, very successful. When he was in Oklahoma City, he was 243 and 157. They did make the postseason every year. Had some problems, couldn't get past the first round, did that just once. Now he's got a task in front of him here with the Chicago Bulls. I think he's worthy of being in the Hall of Fame, especially with his college career. Billy's more of a college coach to me than he is an NBA coach. But he started as an assistant at Kentucky, then at Marshall, Florida, tremendous success there. Maybe I think he should have stayed at college, but it's hard to turn down the NBA and that NBA money. So you go to the Oklahoma City Thunder, then you're at the Chicago Bulls. He was a first-team All-Big East selection, also a third-team All-Big East. Made it to 4 NCAA regional championships. So Final Four in 2000, 2006, 2007, 2014. Won the SEC tournament. Won the SEC regular season several years. Also a John R. Wooden Legends of Coaching Award winner, among others. He's got a resume. And as a player, he played for the Wyoming Wildcatters, and then the New York Knicks, and then the Rapid City Thrillers. Hate to say this, I don't really remember his Knicks appearances. I don't think I've ever watched a Wyoming Wildcatters game or a Rapid City Thrillers game. But Billy Donovan, you can claim a little bit of his fame. Of course, you should be happy for him. He's a guy who's always had something nice to say about Marshall, and he knows. He got his assistant start at Kentucky, elevated to head coach at Marshall, did nice work here in Huntington, and then went on to Florida, which I think he should have stayed. Again, I think I probably have hit that point home. I think he was a better college coach than an NBA coach, but he's definitely a heck of a coach. So he's in the Basketball Hall of Fame, so congratulations to him. Our text line this hour is 304-396-TALK, 304-396-8255. Your text coming up, brought to you by Clark's Pump and Shop on this edition of The Drive, ESPN 94.1 and AM 930.
This is The Drive on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. Follow at Paul Swann on X for Marshall sports updates and more.
Our text line this hour brought to you by Clark's Pump and Shop is 304-396-TALK, 304-396-8255. Welcome back to our Monday edition of The Drive here on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. We got some portal news. Good news and bad news. The good news first is for Marshall wide receiver Christian Fitzpatrick. Got a waiver, so he's going to get another season. So he's out of the draft, but he's in the portal. See how that works? Now, there's nothing that says he has to stay in the portal, but he's out of the draft, so taking that back, and now he's got another opportunity to play some college ball, so he is in the portal. Of course, we'll see how many guys are going to be in the portal after the spring game. And I have a little dread. Only because of the fact that we know what's going to happen. There's going to be guys that perform well, and you're going to be excited about them. You're going to look at this spring game. You're going to see some guys and go, hey, that kid shows some flashes. Or, yeah, that's a guy. That's a player right there. And you're going to have some guys that you're going to see them, and, they might not be around the next time. And that's always been the problem with the transfer portal. You try to build some excitement and some momentum, and you try to learn the new faces. And it used to be, okay, this is a freshman, this is a sophomore, junior, senior. These guys are working their way up. You get to know them over the next 4 years. For a lot of these guys, this is the first time you're seeing them, and it might be the last time you're seeing them. At the same time, the good thing about the portal is it does have its pluses. If there are some areas where Marshall just underperformed, the coaching staff has identified some weaknesses, knows what the team's strengths are, but definitely knows what the team weaknesses are. You can identify those, and you could possibly go out and you can probably look for some guys that maybe could help bolster some of those positions or help you where you're weak. So that's the good thing about the portal. The bad thing about the portal is you can also lose some of your strength. It's not just getting better based off of your weaknesses. It's, okay, can you hang on to the players you have now? And if you lose some positions or some players that were considered to be a strength of this team, you got to go out and replace that as well. So as much as everyone is excited for the spring game, temper it. It's a little bit. I don't want to bring everyone down, but you got to temper it a little bit because you just don't know what the transfer portal is going to look like here in the next few weeks. And, of course, guys you see at spring practice, guys you see at the spring game here today, and sometimes never heard from again. 304-396-TALK, 304-396-8255. Texter says they shouldn't allow the transfer portal until close to the start of the season. Now, I understand that. It's going to have an effect no matter what. You have to go get your players, and then you have to re-recruit your players, and you have to make sure that you address any weaknesses. And there's going to be some guys that you just look at and you go, oh, look, it's not working out here. I don't know how this coaching staff will handle that compared to seasons past. You know, Coach Huff basically will flat out tell you, hey, look, you can stay. You're not going to play. Here's what you need to do to maybe get to that point. But you can stay, but you're not going to play. And if you do get to play, you got to do this to work your way back in. And I'm sure coaches do that all the time. Like, hey, look, it's not looking good for you here. And if you have reduction in roster sizes, imagine how many more players are going to be in the portal, and imagine how many more players are going to find out that they don't have spots. Or there'll be a lot of players that probably have to drop down a division. That's a plus for lower division schools, that there might be better players, higher caliber players that probably fit at lower division football. And I'm not saying that that's a bad thing. What I'm saying is there's always an opportunity. You play at lower division, you play FCS instead of FBS. You play at the 1AA level, if you want to call it that. And you have an opportunity to go out, get more reps, you get more playing time, obviously. You probably become a better football player, and you can always move up. It worked out well for a lot of players that just couldn't find the spot at 1A and would drop down. Marshall would be probably the biggest example of being able to feed off of that system. So you have players drop down, become immediately eligible, and can play football. Win championships, get a lot of notoriety, get draft consideration, get scouts to come look at you a little bit. It was a fun time in the 90s, absolutely. And now the system's a little bit different. No longer is Marshall at the 1AA level where, all these really great players will drop down and you can pick them up right away and they're eligible, and so it makes it more attractive. Everybody gets to transfer. Everybody gets to become eligible. So you're going to have to re-recruit your team that you have currently. You're going to have to go out and fill some needs with the transfer portal, and with roster sizes potentially shrinking. What's that going to look like for the future? 304-396-TALK, 304-396-8255 is our text line to be a part of today's show here on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. We'll get more of your texts coming up. Brought to you by Clark's Pump and Shop on this edition of The Drive, ESPN 94.1 AM 930.
This is The Drive on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. Miss an episode? Catch it anytime on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Welcome back to this Monday edition. The Drive continues on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. Our text line this hour is brought to you by Clark's Pump and Shop, 304-396-TALK, 304-396-8255. So last night was a busy night in the National Hockey League, and it all got started actually in the afternoon as the Washington Capitals faced off against the New York Islanders. And I haven't seen the ratings on that one just yet, but I'm curious to see how many people tuned in, because the previous game, Alex Ovechkin tied Wayne Gretzky's all-time scoring mark. The record was thought to be untouchable. 894 career goals. The previous record was at 802, and that's when Gordie Howe was done. So Gordie Howe, Mr. Hockey, the hero of Wayne Gretzky. Wayne would assault the record, still holds over 50 records in the NHL. That's why he's the great one. But he breaks the record. And then in his final year, at that point, I think that time had caught him. I know he had some issues with his health, back issues, but time had caught him. I mean, Alex Ovechkin's had issues as well, but different time, different age. Gretzky ends at 894, and he did it. And I saw the comparisons that they scored the same amount of goals in the same amount of time, or one less. I've seen those comparisons. The actual number is Gretzky scored 894 goals 7 games faster than Alex Ovechkin. Just a minor stat there. So here we are. And Ovechkin could have broke the record on Friday, but he didn't want to take the empty net opportunity. Surprise there. The guy feeds off the empty netter. So he does it Sunday against the New York Islanders. Gretzky's there. Gretzky's wearing the number 9 lapel pin in honor of Gordie Howe. That was his idol. That's why he ended up with 99. 9 wasn't available, so he ends up with 99. The rest is hockey history. And so it's a second period power play. And I thought the NHL did it right. Records are going to be broken all the time in games. This was a monumental one. I don't know if you would stop the game at a Marshall event if someone would come in and break the all-time scoring mark. Tavion Kinsey currently has that record, previously held by John Elmore. So, stop the game, had this tremendous celebration, and I thought the NHL did it right. And it was fun. At the same time, I grew up a kid watching Wayne Gretzky. It was fun in the sense that here it is, the torch is being passed. You know, my hero is passing it on to someone else's hero now. And then I'm sure there are kids that are watching this or, you know, looking up to Ovechkin. You know, Gretzky was, you know, he's one of the all-time greats, but, you know, how many people today say, hey, he's my favorite player? You had to be of a certain age. A lot of kids are going to say, hey, look, you know, Connor McDavid's my favorite player, or, you know, Austin Matthews or Alex Ovechkin. You know, Ovechkin's been doing it for so long here. And I thought it was great to see. It was fantastic for the game of hockey. It was a power play goal. The celebration was fantastic. And then the league had a wonderful celebration. And imagine this. You're Alex Ovechkin, and you just score the record breaker. And the New York Islanders, to a man, went up and shook his hand while the stoppage happened. After the celebration, and I'm sure everyone in the building was excited for him, even though they, you know, saw Ovechkin score on their team. The Islanders fans were cool. But this is something you don't see maybe in a lot of sports. To a man, every hockey player went up and shook his hand. And what was funny is, you know, Ovechkin, you know, was kind of humble about it. And humble guy he is. He actually, I mean, he's a brute on the ice, but he's a humble guy. And so he goes out there and he thanks his team. And he also thanks Ilya Sorokin, the goaltender that was in net for the New York Islanders. Now, up to this point, Sorokin had not surrendered a goal ever to Alex Ovechkin. And so Sorokin also of Russian descent, gives it up. He gives the record up. So what happens next? I don't know what Ovechkin said to him because they had a nice conversation on the ice. And then later, Sorokin gives his stick to Alex Ovechkin. Because right then and there, after everything was done, he got the winner. They went and got the puck. I don't think anybody was going to do anything. The team ref, somebody, they got the puck because they assured, hey, no, we got it. We got the game winner. Don't worry. We got the breaker. And immediately his jersey went off, his gloves went off, his stick went off. I'm sure something else of his uniform will go later. It's going to the Hockey Hall of Fame, which I thought that was cool. I had to explain that to a couple people. Like, what? Yeah, that's going to the Hockey Hall of Fame. They're taking that right now, stick and all. And Sorokin said, hey, I'll give you my glove after the season's over, because that's his glove. You're not going to break in a new glove before the end of the year. So he's like, look, here, you can have my stick. I'll give you my glove after the season. That was cool. And it was really nice to see how the lineage was addressed, from Howe to Gretzky to Ovechkin. And I think you see that sometimes in baseball. I don't know if you really see that lineage addressed in sports like football. You kind of saw it with LeBron James passing Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Jabbar was there. It was sort of a matter of time. I don't know if the NBA did as good of a job with the celebration or with the ramp up to the record being broken as the NHL. I mean, it was the great chase. Ovechkin was the great 8. Gretzky was the great 1. The ramp up, as hockey is probably enjoying renewed interest, especially with the Four Nations face-off. A lot more people are actually interested in the sport, or at least I think so. I don't know if all the positive things that have happened have sold you on it just yet, but it was fantastic to watch yesterday. A little somber for me, just a little bit, for different reasons, but at the same time, it was a fantastic moment for hockey. Let's keep our text line open. We got a couple of texts come in, 304-396-TALK, 304-396-8255. Oh, by the way, Wayne Gretzky is now 1 goal away from tying Alex Ovechkin. I am 895 goals away from reaching that mark. Texter says, Paul, I wonder about the hidden cost of NIL. Someone will have to be hired to oversee the program. Will schools hire tax advisors to guide the athletes? This could be substantial. I think the better institutions will do just that. I think you're going to see more and more universities are going to outsource or partner up with people to handle the NIL. Because do you want each university to have state employees there managing all of this? I think you would hire that out. And at the same time, do you get agents now? You're probably going to have to educate these kids a lot more if you're not already. But I think that's where you bring in outside third-party partners to kind of manage, work the deals. Like, hey, look, you can get NIL deals, but you got to go through us. I think that might have to be evaluated a little bit more. But there are hidden costs. They all of a sudden, hey, you owe taxes, and here's how much you owe. Oh, you spent that on that really nice ride? No, well, you still got to owe taxes here. And that's a good idea, though. I appreciate that tax. That's really smart. The better programs will have people that, or at least provide guidance. And if you're a bigger school, you probably have bigger NIL deals. If you're Marshall University, what kind of NIL deals are you going to have? But it's income now. And you see a lot of incoming players. You're recruiting them and like, what's my NIL going to look like? What's my deal? What's the cost of coming to Marshall University? Well, it's going to be this. We can't match that. And it's probably going to be more for football, maybe basketball. If you're Duke, you're probably spending $10 million. I think I saw that number. You're spending $10 million on basketball. If you're Marshall University, you're not even going to see $10 million. That's a good question. I appreciate that. Thanks for checking in today. Back with you tomorrow here on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. We'll update you on my goal chase. 895. I think I can do it. I got 895 goals to go to catch up to Alex Ovechkin. I think I got a shot. Think I can catch Gretzky. 894. Have a great night, everyone.
Broadcasting from the Dave & Buster's studios. Eat, drink, play, and watch at Dave & Buster's in the Huntington Mall. ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. WRBC, W231BS Huntington.